Freshen up real quick.
Yeah, man. It's the last thing I do. And you got to try this, Carl. I know what it's like. You got the shiny bald head going, clean shaven. You really got to try one of these just belligerent mustaches, not just a normal. This is one that just tells the world where they can go if they don't like it. Look at you.
I've never even grown one out.
Hey, listen, I tell people all the time, when you work for yourself, you can have a silly mustache because who they going to complain to? Call HR.
Yeah.
But listen, thank you. Thank you for popping on because I'm trying to think. How did we come across each other? Was it Brazil? Was it in one of the was it in a Brazil group? Listen, thank you.
I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know if it was through a comment on YouTube or if I was talking about because I have a video up about learning Portuguese using Pimsleur. Mm-hmm. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure how we connected, but I think whatever it was that was said in the video must have resonated with you in some way because you had came out and said, "Hey, man, I'm living in Brazil now." I think you might have seen a video of me traveling somewhere. I really don't know. But I think it was through a YouTube post.
Yeah, I think we were. Yeah, it was on YouTube because. Well, let me back up for a minute. Let's do two things. Because I know who you are, but they don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put your YouTube channel here on the screen, but I want you to tell them who you are, what you're about. And let's see. Boom. ENTP Life.
That's it right there. Yeah. So essentially, my name is Carl Pierre. I would say that I am a serial entrepreneur, meaning that I start businesses frequently and often. I would say my main two industry groups are home healthcare and real estate investing. In my home healthcare company in 2019, we averaged about $1 million a month. We did $12 million in revenue for the year, employing over 400 people in the New York City area. I'm now expanding that practice here in Southeast Florida and plan on stretching that out to being a national brand and something that I could either tender as an acquisition target for an even bigger entity or even take to the public market. In real estate, I own and control just over $15 million in real estate concentrated in New York. Now adding Italy to the mix. I do have another property that it's a kind of a lease to lease in Medellin, Colombia, that I have as an Airbnb, but that is about to get returned because I haven't had a booking since COVID struck. So they're looking to extend the international travel ban in Medellin through August, and it just doesn't make any sense for me to keep bleeding money over there. But outside of home healthcare and real estate, I guess I now have exposure to a media platform, which is my channel, ENTP Life. There I mostly discuss real estate investing, just business in general, and then my other interests as they come to be. I've spent time as a stock trader. I still trade stocks now. And I think I have another stream of revenue, but it eludes me at the time. But yeah, that's pretty much who I am and what I do. And whenever I see an opportunity that is interesting to me and also lines up with some sort of financial reward, I usually take advantage of it until it's no longer interesting to me. And that's kind of my MO.
Excellent, because you and I believe it was your Pimsleur. Does Pimsleur work? Because I didn't know anything about your other business, and it turns out, you deal in stocks. I'm a cryptocurrency guy. I've been in the crypto game for, let's call it 10 years now. And you and I will have to have a separate discussion. Maybe we'll put it on the Patreon page on the differences between stocks and crypto and how you look at stocks and how I look at crypto. Maybe do some sort of a skill share. I'd really appreciate doing that with you in the future.
Of course.
And as far as the language thing, I think it was because you were coming to Brazil, and at the time, you did this video 11 months ago. We were talking about the Pimsleur method because I became a huge fan of Pimsleur, and it turned out you were too. So how far did you go in the Pimsleur Portuguese, by the way?
100 lessons.
100. So I,
Yeah.
at the beginning of earlier this month, went all the way to 0-1, took that again, and I do 2 a day. So by the end of next month, I'll go through the first 3 sections again, and then I'm going to go farther. There are 5 sections.
Gotcha. Yeah. For me, I stopped because like the first time I went to Brazil was January 2019. And I didn't know a lick of Portuguese. And I thought, my rundown Spanish and my little understanding of French would carry me. And it was like, yeah, I was completely taken back because the accent was odd to me. It sounded like it had nasal tones like French. But a lot of the words, even though now that I know the language better, I see that there's a lot of similarities between Spanish and Portuguese. But upon first listen, to me, since my Spanish is not that strong, I was just like, I don't know what's being said here. But I did fall in love with the country, and I was like, I know I'm going to be coming back, and I can't navigate like this. It's impossible. So I ended up booking a return trip in June for Copa America, and I was like, I'm going to be there, and I was going solo. So I was like, if I'm going to be, cruising solo, I'm going to need to learn something. And one of my friends actually suggested Pimsleur, even though he never used it himself. He was like, yo, you might want to try this Pimsleur app I heard about. So I was like, all right, let me give it a run. And the cool thing about Pimsleur is like you could kind of learn in an almost passive way. So for me, when I was in New York, I was driving from my home to my office, and that was about a 30-minute ride. And that's about how long each Pimsleur lesson is.
Yeah.
So rather than listening to, morning radio or whatever, I would just pop Bluetooth my Pimsleur, and I'll do a lesson. And it's extraordinary because even after your first lesson, what they do that I think is excellent is from lesson number 1, you go in there blind. And at the end of lesson number 1, you understand the conversation that sounded like gibberish to you in the beginning of the lesson. So it's like, holy crap. You feel like you've made such a huge advance even after 1 lesson, especially if you were just blind to the language. So that was cool for me. So I would do the same lesson twice a day. I'll do it 30 minutes going and 30 minutes coming home.
We do the same method. I do the exact same thing. I'll take it, then I'll do it again. And now that we're on quarantine, I decided earlier to go back into 0. I'm doing 2 or 3 hours a day, and it really helps you to catch up on a lot of those fundamentals. And I actually was in university for Portuguese language here. I joined a university, and I was taking these writing and reading, and they were doing everything correctly. The problem is that's not going to help you for a very long time, whereas Pimsleur said, listen, find someplace else to teach you how to write. Find someplace to teach you how to read. We'll give you a couple of words here and there in the booklet, but you can get off the airplane and be able to have a reasonable conversation. And I did a 25-minute, and by the way, I don't make any money off Pimsleur right now, but if anybody has a contact, YusefWateef is here. More than happy to accept people. But hey, listen, I'm a businessman. I'm a hustler. I'm totally okay with Pimsleur saying, will you whore my product for me? Since you used it, we'll give you a few dollars. The answer is yes. So if anybody has a corporate connection, I'm putting that out in the universe.
So yeah, so with Pimsleur, so I have like a referral link that's supposed to give me like a $25 gift card every time somebody kind of signs up. And I know that link has been clicked quite a few times, and I haven't received anything yet. So I'm kind of curious as well as to, what's the tracking method that you use? I tried to sign up for them as an affiliate through one of the affiliate networks, and it was rejected. So I really don't know what they're doing on that front, but I'm kind of whoring their product as well. So for real, if you know exactly how I could monetize that better, let me know. I love the platform. I'd promote it for free, but it would be nice that I get something.
It would be nice. It would be nice. Yeah. because I'm a big fan of it. But here's where you and I are going to kind of cross the rivers on what you do with the whole flipping houses aspect and the Pimsleur. You posted a video recently about using Pimsleur to learn, I believe it's Italian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've been through Italy and you purchased some properties out there, right?
Yep.
Tell us about that experience. Tell us about what it was like as an American going to Italy, not necessarily just from the language aspect, but how you proceed to do business abroad in Italy.
Well, I think it went relatively smoothly because the town that I went into was in Mussomeli, Sicily. Mussomeli is like a rural town. Maybe I think it has 40,000, 50,000 inhabitants there. So small town feel in the countryside. So when I went there, I was just following up on an article that my brother sent me about property selling in Italy for €1. And I was like, oh, for €1, I'm going to go there. I'm going to document it. I'm going to document it for my channel, see what's up. So I went out there for that. And the very first day that I was there, I'm kind of filming to get content for my channel. And these older Italian guys walk over to me and they start speaking to me in Italian. Of course I couldn't speak. So one of them is asking, where am I from? Where am I from? I picked up that's what he was asking. And I told him, from America. And he's like, oh, so he runs over to one of his other buddies, pulls him over, and he's the one that speaks English. So he was like, making the introduction. So the guy is speaking to me in English, and I was like, yeah, I'm here to buy one of your homes. And he tells his friends, and they're like, oh, yeah, they're selling them for €1 over there, etc. So that initial conversation made me feel welcomed, that they were interested in they were familiar with the program, and they were actually interested in inviting kind of foreigners in. I had read like an article like, oh, the Italians are not going to be friendly to foreigners. They kind of are pretty cliquish.
Pause, Brother Carl. We need to reiterate something for the watchers, the listeners, however you're consuming this. And I want you to stop me if I'm wrong. Uh-oh, you got a new fan. Rainy woman. Carl, have you considered doing mentorships on how to do that house abroad purchase for €1?
Not quite mentoring. What I'm thinking about doing, because I have a program that's launching called Killing the American Dream, which is all about investing in real estate, and it's called Killing the American Dream because I want people to kill it in business and life, but also to help people reorganize their idea of this American dream, and really how to.
You already registered that name, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because the jackals on this channel, we're all hustlers. If you didn't, somebody right now is trying to figure out if they can register that domain name. So don't say, and I'm not telling you the people who watch the channel are bad. As a matter of fact, these are the kind of people who do what you and I do, travel the world, doing business, self-reliant. If they hear a nugget of wisdom come out of your mouth,
that's okay.
They're gonna, so here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to consider putting together a program for that. I'm in the process of getting a certification from Google for classroom setup, how to teach things on Google platform. Mm-hmm. We should do some business together. We can do some business together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always down. It's just I didn't think about it in that way because I don't see it as being a lucrative venture. So it's like, I don't want to give time to mentoring people if I'm not going to be making money and they're not going to be making money. I think it's kind of a vanity purchase, I would say, like to have it in the portfolio just because, it's cool to have a house in Italy, I guess. For me, it is. But from a pure investor play, I don't think that's the play. I just don't think that the return is there.
Well, here's the thing. If we start to focus on a methodology that could be applied to different situations, and what you said earlier about mentorship, check this out. One of the things that my friends really got me interested in doing, because I give away 99% of everything I have, I give away for free here. But there are people who contact me and say, hey, I want more. Can you give me some in-depth, finite, one-on-one coaching for the things that I do? And for those who don't know, wait for it. I've got a Patreon, and I won't bore you with all the details on every level and what they do, but the $100 a month level are people who I sit down with video cam and we map things out one-on-one. The other 2 levels are for people who need varying level of information. I'm going to put the link there. If you don't have this, more than happy to help you get set up on it. It's what's going to separate the people who are serious about money, investing. Because see, here's the thing. I don't just talk about world travel. I talk about paperwork necessary to become an expat. I talk, well, hold on. Screw that. What's one of them? Google Money, how to get background checks and immigration paperwork done. That applies to every country you're going to go to. Things like that, you know, prison passport, just things you can't talk about on YouTube. Yeah. Here's your money. I have experts that come in, like my friend Ashley, superstar lawyer. We did how to start Forex. That's something else. I'm familiar with cryptocurrency and I'm learning Forex right now. I strongly suggest to you that you consider setting that some sort of account like that up.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing with the Killing the American Dream program. So it's entplife.com, and then the name of the program is Killing the American Dream. And I do agree with your statement that in order to kind of weed out who's for real and who's not, because I've gone through like that whole mentor me sort of scenario, and you end up investing a lot of time and effort trying to develop, you know, the next generation of investors or business people, and they don't even follow through. So what I wanted to do was create the program that I wish that I had. One that was educational and that has the opportunity for mentorship, except instead of paying for mentorship, you invest alongside me on a deal. And I get my compensation through the deal. So the money never enters my account. It gets escrowed with my attorney into a deal. They actually put their money to work in a deal. And then when we get paid out, my position in that deal is equity for trading.
That's how I understand what you said, but I want to, you know, a good farmer doesn't put his fruit in the barn where only the giraffes can eat. He puts it on the ground so even the lemmings can get a snack. I want you to sketch out that situation, and I want you to talk to me as if I was a child completely unaware. I want people watching this to have a complete understanding of what you just said, because what you just said is powerful, but we have to be careful that we're not only talking to people who deal with money like you and I. Go over what a situation is like. Use me as an example.
Okay, so the way that we're doing it with Killing the American Dream is that we have 3 levels of access, right? One is for people who just really want to learn. They may not have much money. So I have like a monthly membership that's just $97 a month. They could access everything as much as they'd like. Then I have a higher level that's at $2,000, right? And it's a one-time fee. And the reason I set it at $2,000 is because I went to a conference once and I bought into a program for $2,000. And that program was a scam, actually. But within that scam, I learned about the FHA 203K mortgage program. And I told myself, well, I'm going to make my money back on this thing. You know, I didn't just lay out $2,000 for nothing. So that $2,000 got me motivated enough to take some sort of action that would result in me getting my money back. And that was in 2008. I bought the property from that program in 2009, and I haven't looked back since. And that FHA 203K loan program taught me what I would need to know to flip property, because I bought a house that was like it was like a retired couple, hadn't been updated in 30, 40 years. And that mortgage allows you to finance the actual construction to improve the property. But what I didn't know is that that's exactly how hard money lenders would, I guess, eventually design their programs, so that when you're using a hard money loan, which is like a non-traditional loan to invest in real estate, it was structured the same. So it's like, well, I already know the language, I already know what they're expecting, I already know how they're assessing the properties because of my experience there. So I set that one level at $2,000, hoping to trigger people like me, someone who takes the chance and who's like, well, I'm already $2,000 in, I better do something, right? So, and then once you're in the program itself, I actually have one opportunity where you could get complete reimbursement for the training. Like the training then becomes free if you decide to invest in a deal with me. And
that's where the difference is. You don't make your money until somebody else. And for the record, people wondering, I'm not making any money from Carl for this discussion, just in case. And when you come from a financial background, you understand what I'm saying. I was a financial professional. I believe in full disclosure. I will do a lot of shady stuff, but never with money.
Yeah.
Being compensated, I will say I am being compensated. And so far, I don't think I'm ever going to have a guest that pays me to be on. I think that would just be, I'm willing to whore myself out a little bit, but not to not to that level.
Okay.
I'm not going full street here.
Yeah. So, just to really talk about the program a bit and kind of where the idea also came from is that I went to other seminars. I'm the type of person that is consistently trying to learn. So I went to another seminar that was like by those flip your house guys. And it was like, all right, come in for the weekend seminar. You go to that. And that was like, I don't know, like $200 or $300, something like that. And in the weekend seminar, they teach you a little bit. And they're like, well, if you really want direct access to the celebrity, if you really want to learn everything that, that he has to offer, and you want to guarantee yourself success in this game, then you got to go with the mentorship, right? 25 grand. And I was like, $25,000. What do I get for that? No, you get direct access, you get this, you get that. And I was like, well, why don't I just do a deal with you guys, right? And if you're saying that the returns are what they are, just take my profit and let me get my initial thing, and I'll learn, and you'll get paid on the back end. And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. And I was like, what do you mean it doesn't work like that? I was like, if I was guaranteeing somebody to do a deal with me that they're going to make money on the back end, or there's even the potential to make money on the back end, I'd be willing to guarantee my payment out of the proceeds, because I'm going to get paid regardless. Why do I need to get paid on the front end if what I'm, preaching is supposed to pay you on the back end? I'll get paid on the back end with you. So that stuck with me from that time to now, where I was putting together my own course, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to offer this opportunity for anybody who is thinking like me as well. Like, you know what? Like, I don't want to take your money to teach you. Like, that's why the entry price is only $97. Like, yeah, if you want to learn, like a lot of what I talk about in my course on my channel too, it's just more organized, I would say.
As someone who does persuasive writing, for those who don't know, I'm an editor, copy editor, proofreader, writer. The 97 seems like a weird number. Mm-hmm. As far as like when clients hire me to write their sales material for them, 97 just sounds like a weird number. 95, I understand. 100, I understand. 99, I understand. 99.99, I understand. But 97 just feels, it makes my teeth itch. Hey, hi.
So yeah, 97. I don't know. I think my cousin one day, he was telling me like 90, something about 97 is like a weird number that people aren't used to hearing, so you should use it. I was like, all right, whatever. I really don't care. Like, I honestly don't care about the revenue that will be generated from the course. Honestly, what I'm going to do with the money, the revenue generated from just like the course memberships, I have, first of all, it's a 30-day money back guarantee, right? As long as you have made it through the first 7 lessons, you'll get your money back if you say this is trash, right? So you have a month to decide whether it's good or not. But for me, it's like you got to get through up to lesson number 7, because that's like the meat and potatoes of it. If you still think it's trash after 7, then all right, well, then I'll refund you your money. But the proceeds from that, what I plan on doing is just reinvesting it into my YouTube channel. So paying for advertisement, paying for better equipment, paying for different opportunities. So it's not like I don't necessarily need the money from that. I really, the main goal is to get other people to do what I'm doing, and also build a network of people who understand my investment strategy, who could eventually invest in other deals with me, right? As I get into bigger deals and into different cities, I want people to look at properties the same way as me and say, hey, Carl, I got this deal in, I don't know, St. Louis, where it's a market I don't know. and I have gone through your course. I understand it. They could present the deal to me in a way that's familiar, and I could just vet it and say, "Oh yeah, this is good. I'm in." I'll join you 30
You're
grand in.
planting your own seeds. You're planting your own seeds.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like right now, guys that I help get their businesses started in different levels come back to me to write all their sales material, to put together programs when they want to, how do I write off a trip to Brazil as a functional business experience with things like that. I believe, and this is what I do with my YouTube channel, I give away probably the biggest cookies for free. I only deal on the small scale with the Patreon people who want it one-on-one face-to-face because it keeps coming back to me. And that's the weird part. I said on a show the other day I did, you would be amazed how once you learn how to make money, you can't stop. Money thrown at your face. Yeah. And it's awkward to discuss it because once you've made that first deal, it's like learning languages. I have friends that have literally speak fluently and functionally more than 3-4 languages. They said the only difficult language to learn is your second. Now, I'm not fluent in Portuguese yet, but they said that once you get your brain into the situation where, I know how I learn languages now, I can go back to the same program, learning the other ones and being able to speak them, they said the party trick doesn't impress them anymore because once you've done it, you go, this is actually doable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
DP wants to go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just saying I completely agree.
DP wants to know what kind of house are you getting for €1? Do you have any pictures you can flash on screen for us?
Yeah. Let me see.
Do you know how to share on this platform? I can show you.
Let me see. What do you want me to do? How do I do it? Just share my screen?
Click share screen.
Okay.
And then it'll give you, like, if you open a picture on your desktop, like let's say you open a file that has the picture in it, whatever the picture is, whenever it opens on your screen, and then you click share screen, and you'll be able to see that picture under Chrome tabs.
Okay.
Or Apple Windows.
Yeah, I'm pulling one up now just to get ready here.
And for the people watching wherever you are, please make sure that you click subscribe on the YouTube channel, even if you're watching this on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, make sure you still watch it. And wait, what did I just say? Click subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're on Facebook, make sure you also click the YouTube channel and subscribe, because this is how we get to have amazing conversations with awesome people. This is how the job gets done, is by having people like you that come in and watch us and interact with us. It's how I get to bring in great people, because it's not all fun and games here. I like to talk about money. Now, let me know when you click share.
It's shared.
Okay. No, you shared the screen of you and me.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the other screen here. So this here.
Ready?
Yep. This here is an example of a Euro property. This one is just a 5-second clip. So they are relatively dilapidated for €1. Here's the exterior, which doesn't look so bad, right? So the exterior is in fair shape. But on the inside, you're looking at this scenario here.
So now when you look at that, you're looking at it through the eyes of someone who says, once I get this thing put together the right way, this is going to be a moneymaker.
Well, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, what am I trying to do, right? I'm trying to do the least amount of work and get a property that requires the least amount of reno. So I was looking at it as like, all right, which one of these houses is going to take the least amount of money to fix? And then what I ended up realizing was that, see, this program is going on for about 3 years in Musumeli. So the best of the Euro houses have already been scooped up. So the ones that remain are like in really bad shape. So they showed me what were called like the premium or the superior listings in the town. These are still in the old section of Musumeli, because there's like two parts of Musumeli. There's like New Town and Old Town. So Old Town has like the cobblestone streets, tight corridors, what you would see, on the History Channel, right? New Town is just new construction. There's no charm to it. So as a foreigner looking to get something in Italy, I want something that looks like Italy. But there's these superior listings in that same neighborhood that are going from like 5,000 to 15,000 euros. And when I compared the two, it's like I could either get this property for €1, but to get it to the same condition of the premium or the superior listings is going to cost me way more than 5,000 euros. So I ended up picking up the superior listings instead. I got one that was 5,000 euros and the other one was 12,000 euros. So 2 properties for under $20,000, and both are in livable condition. They can use some updating, of course, but I could live in them right now without being unsafe or anything.
Wow! Check out that question from Craig.
It's all right as long as you're here, man. Any residency requirements before you can start flipping and financing options? Okay, financing. I don't know of any lenders that really lend that low, like at 5,000, 10,000 euros. It may not make sense for them, because it doesn't make sense. You might be better off swiping it on a credit card or getting a personal loan from your local bank, and then just making the purchase over there.
Cash is king.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what country or what language. Cash, hard cash. It opens doors. It removes barriers. People don't want to listen.
Yeah. So, but let's just say I was getting a property, I could get a property over there on a credit card, right? If I swipe that credit card into, a PayPal account or something like that, I can swipe it. I'll then have the cash available to me, and then I can make that purchase over there, right? That rather than dealing with a traditional mortgage or any kind of mortgage program in Italy. I do have a buddy that a guy I made friends with on YouTube who's also in Italy investing in properties. His name is Davo. If you're looking at these dollar deals, he'll definitely come out because he's been documenting it. That's who I was learning from a little bit before going there. And I reached out to him, and he was just like, "Yeah, sure, I'll chop it up with you." He invests in auction properties there, and he was like, "You can get a mortgage. It's the same thing. It just doesn't make sense." And he's an American dude. But as far as residency is concerned, the first thing that you need to do is you need to get what's called a codice fiscale, which is like a financial code or like a tax ID number, right? And that's a one-day process. You just go into like the county clerk's office, fill out a form, pay a fee, and I think it's like $5 or $10. It's negligible, and then you get this social security number. With that, you could open up a bank account and you could have like an identity in Italy. Now, if you want to apply for residency full time, I haven't even considered that because I don't plan on being a full-time resident there. But from what David told me, he said that he actually got his residency through marriage. But he said if you're not getting your residency through marriage, you have to kind of just prove that you're making more than 2,000 euros a month. So if you're making 2,000 euros in the States, and you're able to maintain that income, either because you're working remotely or it's your own business or you're renting out real estate in the States, as long as you could show that you're financially, independent and functional, because that's all you need in most of Europe is 2,000 euros, and you should be fine to rent and live. So they're like, as long as you have that satisfied, you're welcomed. So, and you just would have to go through the procedural paperwork. I just don't know the details. But if you're just visiting, I think you could be there on your travel visa for 6 months without any kind of pushback. I hope that answers.
So just so we can make that math work, I'm going to show everybody what 2,000 euros. That's $2,215 USD. If you make $2,215 USD, you're good money. That means if you make $500 a week, $500.
Mm-hmm. That's now, one trade. That's one trade. One successful trade a week.
Yeah. Well, wait. Let's back up then. Let's talk vocabulary. You said one successful trade. Mm-hmm. Give them some context to that comment.
All right. So, for example, to have a pattern day trading account, first of all, you don't need a pattern day trading account, but to have a pattern day trading account in the United States, you need a minimum of $25,000 in a trading account. I recommend having 30 just because you need that wiggle room so that if you have a losing trade, you're not kind of closed out for making new trades, right? But pattern day trading means that you're opening and closing more than 3 positions in 1 week, or more than 3 buys and 3 sells in 1 week. So if you bought Apple and you sold it in the same day and you did that 3 times in 1 week, if you don't have a pattern day trading account, they're going to restrict your trading activity. So if you want to be able to trade with greater frequency, you're going to want to have that 25,000 or more in your account. So a successful trade, in my opinion, is a successful day is making $1 on whatever your average trading size is. And Bom Dia. And what I would say is most people start out trading lots of 100 shares, right? So a good day, if you're trading 100 shares maximum position size, so that's 100 shares of Apple, 100 shares of Microsoft, Facebook, whatever, that your goal is to make $1 or $100 a day, right? So if you've gotten comfortable and you're now at a size where you're trading 500 shares a day, you just need 1 or 2 successful trades in that day, 50 cents here, a quarter there, and you've made $500 for the day. You could even have multi-day positions where you might buy something and hold it for $3, $4, depending on what you're seeing. So the thing that I love about trading is when you get proficient at it, it's something that you could do anywhere you are in the world as long as you have internet. And it allows you to earn in US dollars anywhere, right? And the only barrier to entry is how much money you have, right? So if you have less money, you might have to maybe you trade Forex because they give you better margin, or you may just build on your trading account in the finite amount of money that you have, because you still might be able to buy 100 shares of a $20 stock, right? You buy 100 shares of $20 stock, it moves $1, you made $200, and that happens regularly. So you just need to.
I tell people that the barrier to entry to this, in my opinion, is lower than what you said. You look at the barrier to entry and you explain it to them correctly and how much money they have. For me, the barrier of entry is how much of your time are you going to spend being willing to take not 24-hour overnight success, but long-winded, detailed courses on what you want to learn. For me, for my cryptocurrency account, I took a course half of it was taught by, it was at the University of Nicosia, and it was taught by 2 professors, and one of them was Andreas Antonopoulos. You know Andreas Antonopoulos? No, he's probably the foremost person in cryptocurrency. And it took me 12 weeks of studying every day, and then I had to go study and take an exam on Fridays, and I got a very simple certificate, but it's why I got the fundamentals I needed. And you know what I had to sacrifice? The time, because they're not expensive. You just have to research and make sure they're well done. Right now I'm doing one in Forex, and I want to be clear, I don't have the stomach for day trading with my crypto, because my crypto is like, that's my baby. I got it working the way I like it. So I'm going to look into this whole Forex thing. I'm embarking on an 8 to 12 week journey with a mastermind group that I've put together. Are you part of any mastermind groups?
No.
Are you familiar with mastermind groups?
I'm familiar, but I've never joined any.
I would suggest you start one. The book Think and Grow Rich is the one that everyone should be familiar with. And for the record, if anyone here wants a copy of this book, email me, YusefWateef@gmail.com, and I will make sure you get a copy. This is one of the books that is old, but is a consistent guide to wealth. And the mastermind group, it's when you get a group of people together for a very specific purpose. Like, we are going to discuss cryptocurrency. We're going to take a class online, and then once a week we're going to get together and talk for 90 minutes or 2 hours, and there will be nothing discussed outside of that area. It's going to be led by someone who is focused. Anyone who is off focus will just be removed from the group. It's a very tight-knit thing, and you have to really know what you want. But it's something that I've put together and I've been successful with. I did a mastermind group for my cryptocurrency. It's a tool that I really hope that you can put inside your in your arsenal, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So let's see. Oh, what did he say?
Yeah, nice breakdown. Not a problem, man. From an INTJ.
Yeah. And I hope everybody gets a chance. And I'll put the link down below, how to build a mastermind group. It's a tool that I hope a lot of people get to put together. So now, let's back up. ENTP, wait, hold on. I don't know. Okay. ENTP Life. Break that name down for me. Explain that to me.
It started. Okay, so
because I don't know what ENTP means, but I think I've heard it somewhere.
Gotcha. So there's two psychologists. I guess they go together as Myers-Briggs as their last names, and they created a system for assessing personalities, and they pretty much categorized all people to fall into one of 16 personality types. And each letter stands for something. Like it for ENTP, for instance, it's extroverted, intuitive, thinking, perceiving. And it's kind of how we process information internally and externally, and more or less how we see life in a way. So each personality type is a specific, like, for instance, an extroverted intuition. Someone with the ENTP personality type, for instance, does not require a lot of information to draw potential conclusions. Whereas there are some people who need to see something to understand it. We're able to process information. Like, you could kind of say, hey, you could give an explanation, a very loose explanation of a mastermind group, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I get it, and I could correlate that to some other information that I already have, and I don't need you to kind of give me like a visual chart or an explanation. Meanwhile, there's people who are sensors, who need to see, feel, touch, hear in order for them to understand something. So it just kind of breaks you down in that sort of way. So are you introverted, extroverted? Are you comfortable in social settings? Are you more comfortable alone? And anyway, my personality type is the ENTP. And prior to taking the personality test, I just thought I was kind of a disorganized, unusual kind of guy. And it turns out that my personality type is just that way. And it gave a breakdown as to the strengths, weaknesses, what to look out for, etc. And it really helped me kind of form teams around myself that lend to my strengths and weaknesses. And in my company now, I have every employee take a personality test, because it lets me understand who they are, how they think, how they process information, how they want to be spoken to, what motivates them, what discourages them, etc. It helps me be a much better human being in general, just knowing my personality type and knowing others. So I had another channel called Hook Eat Up, where I just focused on cooking, because that's one of my other hobbies. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't, like, one thing that an ENTP personality type hates is routine, right? And I like that's like the equivalent of hell for me, is to put me in a very routine role. So once I was doing this YouTube channel that was focused on cooking, I wanted to bring in my flying. I wanted to bring in the other things that I do, like my other interests. And I was like, but how does that connect with cooking? And I was like, you know what? Let me just create a new channel, and I'm going to call it the ENTP Life, so that I could just be me, and whatever I'm interested in is still me. You know what I mean? And I could also serve as like an example to people who are interested in personality typing, so that people could say, okay, well, this is how an ENTP functions in real life, day to day, not just the snippet, not just the explanation, but this is how ENTPs are in the world, and this is the role that they play. And for instance, Craig, who was saying that he's an INTJ, what he has that's similar to me is the intuitive thinking construct. So he spends a lot of time reflecting on what he's learned, thinking about ways to improve processes. Except his final letter, that J, he's not so quick to come to conclusions with like just random information. He's more methodical about how he arrives at his conclusions, which is different than me. And it's always like for me, it's always interesting to talk to INFJs or INTJs because they share a lot of the same outlooks on life as I do, except they have almost like a different way of arriving at the same conclusion. And it helps. It's like two sides of the same coin in a way. So so that's why the channel is called ENTP Life. It's just a nod to my personality type. Some people think it stands for the entrepreneur's life. ENTPs happen to be very entrepreneurial by happenstance. But people think it's for the entrepreneur's life, but it's not. It's really a nod to my personality type.
So here's my other question. Out of all 8 personality types, which ones would you avoid hiring and which ones would you give preference to hiring?
It's 16, actually. These are just the FJs and the TJs.
Oh,
so
okay.
there's 16 of them. So it depends on what the role is, actually. It's not that I would give preference to any particular personality type. There's some personality types that are really good at like routine work, which I'm really horrible at. So there's people who like these are like the factory workers, right? That like I could put the square peg into the square hole 1,000 times a day, and I find great joy in that, doing it perfectly and doing it according to the book. I can't do that, right? So if I had a position that requires highly repetitive work, they would be an ideal candidate for that role. Of course, their resume needs to line up, their work experience needs to line up, there needs to be a right fit. You know, they have the right value set, that it's in line with the company, they have the same goals. But so like for me, if I was going to hire an ENTP, right, I would hire an ENTP to be involved in problem solving within the company, right? So trying to create more efficient mechanisms within the company, or like in an engineering group, I would have ENTPs there because they're idea people. They're always looking at how do you get from point A to point B faster? How do you get to point A, point B with greater interest? How do you get to point A to point B and make money along the way? So they're going to always be thinking of possibilities to make whatever is in front of them better. But I would not put an ENTP in the role of administrative assistant, where they're or even I wouldn't put them in so many roles. Anything that has to do with routine work, that the work environment is the same every day, they're going to get distracted. We're highly disorganized. So our work area may be very messy. I wouldn't have them in roles where organization matters. A dread job for an ENTP would be a bank teller. Ooh. Right? The money has to be accurate every day. You have to smile and interact with people all day that may be moronic. It would be like the worst fit. We would get fired from that job within weeks easily. But someone like an ESFJ would be perfect for that job. Like the ESTJs, when I'm looking at middle management positions in my company, I prefer the ESTJs because they can be very routine in their work, but they also take a sense of ownership or responsibility for the work, and they're willing to make improvements and change, and they also can work independently. Meanwhile, somebody who's an ESFJ may consistently need approval from their employer. They're not going to go outside of the box. An ESTJ will within a certain reasonable parameter. An ENTP is going to go completely out of the box, potentially blow up the box, and say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I thought I was trying to help." They may actually create a really good solution, but if you weren't looking for them to create solutions and you just wanted them to keep track of the, of the box, man, they're going to be the worst guy for that job. So I'll look at that as just fundamentally, is this job a good fit for them? Then I also look at, of course, their resume, their work experience, and everything else. So I don't use personality types to as a sole determining function for a job. No way.
Black Torch asked, how much was that cryptocurrency course? So what I'm going to do is share a screen here. Let's see, where'd it go? I had a screen up and it'll give us, we've got one here that talks about how to start your Bitcoin. And I hope everybody gets a chance to look at that. If you want further details, of course, earlier I put in a link for the mastermind group for yourself, or if you want, I also put in the link for the I can't think of it, and I do it. Why can't I say the word? Patreon. Wow. Working a lot today. Working a lot. Go ahead and put that on the screen for everybody to take a look at. Here we go. How to start Bitcoin. Boom. Yeah. Shows you how many people want to watch the fun videos versus, hey, what? Can I start some Bitcoin? I say, sure, I'm going to lay out some fundamentals on how to do it, and 114 views. My party videos for Brazil explode. But you know what? You got to give them some vegetables to go with the steak. You got to give them vegetables to go with the steak. And for everybody watching, and I said it earlier, it's important. Click subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, make sure you click in and subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. That's really, 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 really important. So that's how we do that. So you, like me, you have your hand in a lot of different pies. To go back to your cooking analogy, you've got the house issues, you've got your day trading, you've got, I'm sure you've got ventures that you're not going to talk about now. You've got your internet things going as far as helping other people. My big question, this is the one that I want to go into maybe more the art as opposed to the science, which we've been talking about of life. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself living in America full-time despite your international options? Now, I'm never going to say give up our American passports or anything like that, but how do you feel about, because one of the recurring themes that my channel comes up with over and over and over again, sometimes in the comments and sometimes from people on the chat with me, is how many of us, and by us, I specifically mean Black people, are dealing with brain drain. Meaning the best and brightest among us have just completely abandoned America. I mean, not all of us, but you're finding there was a time when people who didn't have much going for themselves would say, I'll just leave America. And then you find out that's never been true. It's the people who had a lot going for themselves. And as Black Americans, you know, I tell people all the time, racism is everywhere. It's just not always lethal. Racism can also manifest itself in saying, I want 2 forms of ID to rent you this apartment, even though you have the money. Whereas in America, racism means that any white person can shoot you in the face and there'll be no recourse. Unless it was caught on video by multiple people and got big on the internet. Yeah. It's an interesting feeling to travel the world. And I've lived in 15 countries. I mean, for years at a time in many places. I visit the United States and I immediately feel that weight back on my shoulders. Now, a lot of people don't have the privilege of knowledge or the burden of knowledge that you and I have, that life can be different elsewhere. Have you considered living abroad? Of course, I'm advocating Brazil because I want everybody to come and hang out with me in Brazil. Yeah. Have you considered anything else?
Absolutely. So I'm moving to Colombia. So my wife is from Venezuela. She's living in the United States on on political asylum and currently is in the petition process for her green card. So once she's allowed to leave and come back and forth between the United States and anywhere else, really, we're relocating to Colombia 6 months out of the year. And then because that allows her to be closer to home, so she could see her family more often because they can't travel to the States. So she gets her life back in a way. But I totally can identify with what you're saying. For me, being a Black in America is you have an interesting perspective because you grow up always knowing that you're a second-class citizen within this country. And you grow up knowing that you have to be twice as smart, twice as polite, twice as intelligent, twice as kind, twice as anything to be, kind of on a level playing field. And when you go to other countries, and I have friends from all walks of life, but of course I have plenty of Black friends, right? So when I travel with my Black friends who don't travel as much as me, they already walk into new countries with like the same defensiveness that they have come to develop being in the United States. They're looking for racism at every corner, which is crazy. It's like, oh, why aren't there any Black people working here? Why did they give us this table? Is it because we're Black? And it's like, oh, honestly, they know that you're Black, but if they're not even thinking about these things the way that you're thinking about them, right? And like, for instance, in Brazil, every shade is represented and people mix frequently. You're going to see differences between color, but it's not as like, all right, because Brazil, of course, was a slave nation at one point. So those who are direct descendants of slaves who kind of never sorted it out are still going to be living, from a social economic disadvantage. But they're not treated the same as like a Black in America, I would say. So you don't get that same sense of like, you guys are there. You are there. It's like, first of all, we're Brazilian, number one, and then these variations in us make us unique and make us interesting in our own ways, and we actually enjoy that process. But in America, it's like, nah, I'm Black, and this is my lane, and this is what I'm expected to do, and this is the lane that I stay in. And if I get out of that, I'm uncomfortable. And oh my God, it's a completely different thing. And even in countries like, you go to Europe, you go to Germany, they're still gonna have like some level of racism, but it's not as well defined and as like, it's not one of the core values of those countries as it is in the United States. It may not say so, but it is a core value here.
Well, this is what I'll tell you after living in Brazil for 5 years. I also want to say, until I can explain all of this in fluent Portuguese, I will not allow myself the arrogance to be able to speak anywhere close to approximating the experience of a Black Brazilian. Mm-hmm. So what I can tell you is this. Racism is awful. People will always say, which one is the worst, Brazil or... No, they're both awfully racist countries. The difference in Brazil is this, and this is a lie that's a truth that's a lie. In Brazil, you can economy your way out of being poor, thus putting yourself in a position where your being Black is not necessarily as mitigating a circumstance. Whereas in the United States, you could be Dr. Henry Louis Gates, who is a world-renowned PhD famous guy, and be dragged away from your own house in handcuffs because they don't believe you live there, even though they know who you really are and could have simply Googled your name and looked at your picture all over the world and said, oh yeah, he lives here. But they want to enforce that humiliation. Whereas here, I'm not treated better because I am Black or because I'm Black and American. It's because I'm not poor.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Whereas in the United States, you can be smarter, richer, faster, stronger, more handsome, and just be shot in the face.
Still Black, dude. So you have less value in some odd way, and the thing what you're saying is, that's what I could say is more palpable in other countries. It's more of a classism than it is a racism from my
But
observation.
Most of the people who are relegated to the lower classes
Are darker.
Are black.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, if I'm a black person, like in Colombia, for instance, they actually have there's like 6 tiers of socioeconomic status, right? And it's based on how much you earn and where you live, and your tax rate is going to be based on that. So like many other systems, but it's they call them stratuses, right? So there's 6 stratuses. So if you're in stratus 1, you're gonna be in a stratus 1 neighborhood. Nobody bothers you. You're not like if you're here, you belong here, based on how you speak, based on how you dress, based on everything that they see. They could size you up and say, yeah, I don't care what color you are, you belong here. But if you carry a certain accent that might be from a different side of town, whether you're white Colombian or you're black Colombian, they already are starting to treat you differently. So it's more of a classism that I observe in other countries, more so than race. But in a lot of those countries, a lot of people of my race tend to be disadvantaged economically, right?
Yep.
But at no point, if I'm in a restaurant that's in the uppity side of town, no one is looking at me strange. Meanwhile, I might walk into an uppity restaurant in New York City, and it's like they're going to listen to my conversation. They don't know if I'm famous. Like you have all these, like you see the calculations going on. Like, why is he here? Why is he in the same place as us? This place costs $500 a plate. Well, and they're dealing with that. And then they may even try to engage you in conversation just to see where you're at. How do you speak?
Yeah, they want to test you.
What do you do? And like, okay, whatever. And then it becomes normal again. You get normalized in a way.
I tell people they'll say, oh, because it's happened in Brazil. Because here's the thing, they'll also say in Brazil, if I walk into someplace, my friends tell me that I'll never be able to pass for a Brazilian, but I can fake it for a few seconds until they look at me and go. So what I'll do is to make people nervous, I'll walk in someplace and I'll like put my paperwork someplace or point to a table, but I won't speak. And you can see them going, and they'll look around. And by the way, when I go into a high-class restaurant, I wear polo shirts just like Carl when I meet with clients. Any other time, guns out. I don't give a fuck how expensive your plates are. I'm walking in there with jeans, my white shell-toed Adidas, and a tank top, and be mad if you want to. And they look at me and but one of my friends explained to me, the only people that would have that kind of audacity are the Black Americans, and that's what gives me away.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that's the giveaway right there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, you gringo, man. We could detect you from anywhere. But if you came in wearing a polo, for instance, a pair of slacks, and it's hot, so a polo, a pair of slacks, some shoes, and you walked into the restaurant, they'll be like, all right, this guy, they might just start dropping Portuguese on you right away without second guessing it. And once they hear you speak, they're going to be like, oh, like I remember I was talking to one little kid on the beach in Portuguese, and he was like, where are you from? And he was like, you're from France. And I was like, no. And he was looking at me and he was like, man, I can't, I don't know. I was like, I'm from America. He was like, what? He was like, how do you speak Portuguese? I was like, all the Americans that I meet here, they never speak. And I was just like, yeah, I learned. And he was like, oh man, you had me guessing. He was like, I knew that you, based on how you speak, that you weren't from here.
That I learned traveling a long time ago, and I want to know if your experience coincides with it. By the way, Red Pill Neo says, no one says, are you Black? They say, are you American? And the only place where it's beneficial to be a Black American is not in America.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that one of the things that I learned traveling the world very early is there are places you'll read about and they'll say, no American should go there. They hate Americans. They'll kill you. They'll murder you in the face when you get off the airplane. And then you go there and you realize, wait a minute. They're not talking about Black Americans. I can go any place in this world and I will never be seen as the face of oppression.
Yep.
No one looks at me and says, you're responsible for sending troops into my backyard and murdering my grandmother.
I have an interesting story for you, right? So I went to Thailand with my buddies. And first of all, in Thailand, you're going to see very few Black people, right? Because People from Africa aren't traveling to Thailand with a great frequency, and Americans aren't taking that 23-hour flight over there, right? And Black Americans, for whatever reason, don't really travel much, whether it's this fear of the racist world outside of America. Like they know their own racism, but like, I don't know if I'm going all the way to Thailand or Germany. I'm not trying to deal with you know, what's going to happen to me over there, right? So I think there's this misconception, but in Thailand, there's not many Black people. So a lot of the Thai people would call me Obama, right? Like, Obama, come here, right? And and I never took it as like offensive, right? Because I'm like, that's one of the few Black people. Like, it's either Obama, Michael Jordan, or Michael Jackson, right? It's, right. So it's one of those things that they can identify with Black American culture in some way, or 50 Cent, you know, in his day. So that's their only like image that they have of Black Americans. So like, I started talking to the Thai people about it, or they'll call me Chocolate Man. But I never took offense to it. So I was asking, you know, about how often are Black people here. They're like, usually it's military, usually coming in from Japan. They might rotate through. So we'll see Blacks from America. And they're always gentlemen. They're always nice. They're always respectful. That's something that I would get consistently. So I met a girl from Ethiopia who was living in Denmark. Okay, so she's a Danish citizen. Her parents were immigrants. She was born in Denmark, and we were talking in a nightclub, and this was like during the Obama was president, but we're now going into the Trump Clinton era presidential race.
I lived in Bangkok for almost 2 years.
Yeah, man, it's a cool country. I really like it over there, and you could see what I'm talking about. Like, you never feel like racism there. They're gonna single you out as a Black person because there's not many of us there, so it's kind of like funny to see in a way. But you see, like, look at that picture, right? They're not gonna single you. They're gonna single you out for more because they're curious more than they are to try to like hurt you or make you feel bad or make you feel unwelcome. They're actually going to welcome you more than other people, I find. But the thing that came up in this conversation in the nightclub is that she was like, you know, I think she was like, she was so proud of America for having a Black president. And she was like, I think things are really starting to turn around. And I was like, nope. I was like, I think things are getting worse. And I was like, because of that threat to the status quo. I was like, I'm starting to see and I'm starting to observe more and more acts of racism in America than I did at any other point in my life since Obama has become president. And I was like, I thought the same as you, that things would start to turn in a certain way. And for some people it did, but for a lot of people it made them kind of double down on their positions. And you know, I don't feel that when I'm in other countries, and like, it's through my traveling that I decided I've had enough with it here. Here, I'm going to mine my money. I'm going to make my money. I'm going to continue to push it. But life in other countries is so much better in general, like the work to life balance, plus how they treat me as a human being. I get treated like an equal in many ways.
Like a regular person.
Yep. Yep.
I had a discussion. It might have been yesterday or the day before with Sarah Sensei, and the discussion started out with a question of, should Black children be bilingual? Because she sees bilingualism being yet another yoke foisted upon Black children, and she had a lot of interesting things to say. But then the conversation quickly changed. Not quickly, it edged into it. And one of the things that she got into was a phrase, I don't know who coined it, but it was called geo-arbitrage.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar?
Yep.
Okay. For the people who don't know, I want to put this on the screen so that we're all talking about the same thing. Geo-arbitrage. Let's see here. is an interesting concept, often closely related to the definition of lifestyle design. It basically means relocating in order to take advantage of the lower cost of a city or country. There are different ways you can go about this. She wanted to discuss the ethics of Black people using geo-arbitrage and leaving the United States as opposed to staying in the United States and demanding what we're due. The point that I was trying to make is it's never going to happen.
Maybe not in my lifetime.
Well, yeah. In our lifetime, it's not going to happen.
Maybe not in my lifetime.
You don't owe America anything. Like, what do you think America owes? That you owe America to stay here and suffer? And we had a really passionate, discussion.
Yeah, you could you could choose two paths, right? You could try to change the world that you're in, or you could change your world. So I feel like the path of least resistance is the one I'm going to take, and I'm fortunate enough to have my American privilege, my American citizenship that allows me to do business here, that allows me to get debt, a lot easier than it is in other countries. I've been able to build a good life for myself here, and it hasn't been taken away from me yet. So I'm going to keep mining my money here, but I'm not going to live in the mine.
Wait, say that again.
I'm going to mine my money here, but I'm not going to live in the mines because nobody lives in the mines.
So. 1 minute and 1 hour and 10 minutes. Please, Mark, hold on. 1:10:00 master quote on mines. I'm putting that there so I remember it later. That's an amazing phrase. As a matter of fact, let's see.
I got a question for you, man. So I have this theory, right, that in about 60% of the world, you could live like the equivalent of an American middle class life in another country for $1,500. Would you agree that's the case based on where you've lived so far?
I would say 70% of the world.
70, right? So
probably higher, because here's the thing.
All of South America, pretty much.
All of, yeah. But here's the thing. A lot of Europe. What we don't seem to understand in the United States, it's not that the United States dollar is extraordinarily high value because it's high value, is that the United States is a nation that's built itself on consumerism. I mean, considering that 3 months of a quarantine is destroying our economy, not because war hit, but because people simply aren't buying things. So when you have a situation like that, the dollar is great. But the problem is, in the rest of the world, for example, I always give a medical example. People think operations that cost millions in America, but in fact, in the other countries, only cost thousands. And medical procedures that cost thousands in America only cost a couple of hundred in other countries. And the doctors and medical professionals still make tons of profit. But in America, everything is monetized to such an extraordinary extent that now you have that brain drain. Now you've got a situation where the best and brightest who could have the money just decide, why here? I mean, one of my things that I do is people contact me to, I guess you would say, facilitate different meetings they need in Brazil. One of them is people come down here for medical procedures. About half will come down for cosmetic surgery. Maybe dad wants to get a new grill, mom wants some new tits. They can do that, plus have another 2-week holiday for 20% of what it would cost them in the United States.
Yep. Totally true.
And when you realize that, it becomes, your world explodes.
So let me give you an example. So just to put it in perspective, right? I could get a 3-bedroom house, not 3-bedroom apartment, sorry. 3-bedroom apartment for rent inside of a gated community in a like upper class neighborhood in Medellin, Colombia for $600 a month. If I wanted to get the equivalent and just be outside of like the main central area, I could probably get it for $400 a month. In Italy, I could rent out an apartment just right outside of Milan for $300 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. 300 euros.
What city right now?
What city am I in currently, physically in this space?
Yeah.
I'm in Fort Lauderdale. Fort
Okay, hold
Lauderdale,
on.
Florida.
I'm going to show you a great tool, and if you already know it, some people may not. Do you know Numbeo?
No.
Numbeo is an excellent resource for comparing cost of living. I've used it all over the world, and I find it's extraordinarily accurate. Look at this.
Numbeo.
Cost of living calculator.
Okay.
So let's just go over the goodies. Medellin, consumer prices, 65% cheaper. Rent, 72% cheaper. Rent prices, 82% cheaper. Restaurants, 70% cheaper. Groceries, oh, come on. Groceries, 70% cheaper. Purchasing power, 71% lower. You make up for everything. Let's take a stroll down this little comparison chart. Okay. If everything here is in US dollars,
yeah,
meal
that's right.
at a cheap restaurant, Medellin, $3.50 US 15. Meal for two people at a mid-range restaurant, that means you're going to get an appetizer, a meal, and a snack for you to split later, $17.50.
Yep.
When people figure this, I've had friends get real upset with themselves when, after years of me bashing my head against theirs, they finally say, well, how much is it to live there? And I'll show them something like this, and they get angry that they're like, wait a minute, I have a job I do on the internet where I could live anywhere in the world, yet I'm choosing to live downtown Manhattan where the rent is like $7,000 a month.
Yep.
Some people, that's a lot of money. Some people, it's not. I'm saying to working class chumps like me who bought their own education, purchased their own 2 degrees, shit, dude, that's not okay. But then you look at something like this. Let's go down to childcare.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
School, yearly, 26 there, 4,000. You can put your child in an excellent facility.
Yep. Completely in English, completely US curriculums. And it's like that throughout. Listen, what I pay in my rent here in Fort Lauderdale, I only pay 1950 or 1925, something like that. That would cover my entire family expense in Colombia. That's apartments. That is a nanny / live-in help, however you want to call it. That would cost me like $400 or $500 a month. That'll cover all my meals, cell phones, transportation, and entertainment. Just my rent. Right? So for me, it became a no-brainer. Like my first travels out of the United States were like into the Caribbean, into like Mexico, into like resort towns. So I didn't see how far the money went. The first time that I ever saw like that difference between what money gets me in like the Caribbean and when I traveled outside the United States, like the first time I saw how far the dollar could take me was in Thailand when I could get that pad thai for 40 baht, right? And I was just like, pad thai on the corner for 40 baht. And it was just like, all right, wait a second. And then, you could get a hotel room in a decent spot for $26 a night. And I was like, these numbers don't even make sense. And that was my aha moment was traveling to Thailand and saying, wait, this is possible. I could actually relocate to another part of the world and make it happen, right? Because I have my income from quite a few different sources that I'm not married to a job. So what am I doing? Right. So the only reason I'm still here, like I was in New York and I was already sick to my stomach of being in New York. Only reason I'm in Fort Lauderdale is because it's the midpoint between Medellin, Colombia, and New York City. And I'm waiting for my wife's green card to arrive. That's it. Once her green card arrives, out.
Watch this. I'll tell you something. We're talking about children's education, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did a Patreon with a couple of people who are supporting my Patreon. One of them is what we call a high salary teacher. She went through and went step by step with us. And if anybody wants it, I'll put the link in there. High salary teacher. She makes 7,000 Brazilian real a month, right? That's nothing. That's like 1,600 USD. But now here's huh?
Yeah, like right now it's the real is pretty beat up.
But now here's the interesting part. They pay for a fancy hotel, a fancy apartment for her to live in, right? they pay for her food. And when you say $7,000 a month, that puts her in the upper 4% of income earners in the country. That means she spends, because we all know the more money you have, the less you spend. She spends almost nothing. And what has she learned how to do? Invest the rest. And all she did was take her university degree and get a different set of, it took her about 6 months to get 2 different certifications to become an international teacher. And she was just off to the races. She's done it in the United Arab Emirates. She's done it in Beijing, China. She's doing it in Brazil. And it's something that a lot of people still don't know exists, particularly Black people. Do you know how many teachers I know that have been slaving away, working in some school somewhere, making shit for money for 5-10 years, crying every night because they got 40 children in a classroom built for 15, and then after that find out she's in a classroom with 20 children. They all get iPad tablets. They're the sons of the diplomats and all the professors, and she gets paid a shit ton of money to live in a place where it's just awesome to live, like Brazil.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I touch on my channel is I try to, every now and then I try to sprinkle in kind of my mindset and why I'm doing certain things, why I'm leaving the country. I try to show that price difference. I use a website called Nomad List, which is similar. It's kind of like the site Numbeo that you showed is similar to that, except it shows you should check it out. It shows you exactly what you could come to expect in that city. So it's by city. So it's like, what's the cost of living as a nomad? What's the cost of living as an expat? What's the cost of living if you're trying to live like a local? Cost of living for a family? What's the average internet speed? Oh man, it shows you, it gives you a good breakdown, and there's like a community around it, so you could also review the cities and share your experience as a nomad. But since I'm in healthcare, I always work with nurses who do like travel assignments, and I tell them, I was like, why don't you just travel 3 or 4 months out of the year in the United States, live prudently, and spend your other 8 to 9 months abroad? I was like, the money that you save up will carry you to live this traveling life. Everybody says, oh man, I wish I could travel more often. I wish I could see more of the world. And either if you have a remote job or you have a job like a nurse where you could kind of cake up in a short period of time and also guarantee to find work when you return, then do it, man. I think for Black people in particular, spending time getting out of America would be the best thing that you could do for your mind, because it'll make you come back saying, all right, I see I could leave here. How am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve that? And let you know that there's options for you. You don't have to still be in this little, slavery bubble that we're in here. And it's not as just Black people slavery. I'm talking about like American slaves, so
Is
it's
that
like,
what we're talking about?
Is that Nomad List? Yeah, I think so.
So here's what I'll do.
Yeah.
I'll register real quick, and if we can do this real quick, we'll give it a whirl. I'm trying to think, have I ever used it?
It's nomadlist.com. So usually when you first arrive on the homepage, maybe because you're coming from Brazil, it gives you a different access. But when I arrive on the homepage, it just shows me what you got. Like once I scroll down, it already shows me the cities. Like you don't have the cities on your first view?
No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can register for it.
I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Oh, okay. Go for it. Yeah, we can use yours.
Check this out. So you go to Nomad List. You got my screen, right? So when you arrive here, that's why I said your view was a little different than what I saw. But you scroll down and you already start seeing how they rank the cities, right? So they're saying right now, based on people's reports, that Bali is #1. And once you hover over, it shows you like the overall score, like how is it on cost, what's the internet quality, the fun, safety, etc. They have Berlin as #2, but it shows you what is the average cost of living as a nomad per month, just right on the thumbnail. So here you only need $1,200 a month. Berlin, it's Germany. There's more money there. It's $2,800. That's #2. But look at Buenos Aires, $937 a month. Bangkok, $1,500.
So pull up Medellin, and does it give a comparison chart? Can you compare Medellin to Sao Paulo? And by the way, I don't want anyone watching to believe that the only way to make this decision is based on how much money something costs. That is not what we're saying at all.
So Medellin is showing 977. They're saying safety is low, but I mean, if you stay out of shady areas, you should. I'm sure the same in Sao Paulo.
It's like Brazil. People say the same thing. Oh, isn't Brazil dangerous? Well, if you're hanging out downtown at night, walking around like a tourist, oh yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if this has like a comparison, like comparing one place to the next. I'm pretty sure they might. I never took it that far. What I do is I look at the cities that I would want to go to, and just see how much it costs. If I click into it, what it shows you is like you have this cost of living report. I like how it presents too. So like, see the cost of living for a nomad, and it explains, well, a nomad is someone who's working digitally, lives, in hotels or maybe in Airbnbs, the cost for a family. But if you're living as an expat where you're not renting out an Airbnb and you actually set up your own apartment, it's as little as $687 a month. And if you're a local and you're willing to deal like in that mid-tier neighborhood, $524 a month. So, it gives you everything in perspective. Even this price of a beer, this is overpriced because I could buy a beer for 60 cents on the street. If I'm walking around, I could pick up an Aguilar for 60 cents, 2,000 pesos. So, that's just a snapshot. And once you start looking at it, I'm telling you. Oh, you want me to? Okay, let me put that back on. And you're there, so you could give us, what your sentiment is. But let's go. Sao Paulo.
Okay.
So Sao Paulo, they're saying price for a nomad is $1,254 a month.
Wait, $1,254 US?
As a nomad, that's you living in Airbnbs or hotels. If you're an expat,
woo, that's a lot.
Yeah, if you're an expat, it's $751. What would you say about that?
You mean just for rent?
No. That's your total cost of living.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because you got to figure my phone bill, cable, electricity. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So, and this is somebody who's an expat. Now, this is a nomad who's living in hotels and Airbnbs and kind of paying up for like the shorter stays, right? I'm there for 3 months, 2 months at a time. But if you're someone who's already accustomed to living there, you may not be living in the tourist zone, but you're still living in a nice neighborhood. That's like the comparison that they make. So it's like if somebody was going to be a nomad, for instance, in New York, they'd be in New York City. They'd probably be renting an Airbnb in Manhattan, right? But you could also live in Queens. You could also live in the Bronx, and you're still in New York City. You just maybe commuting a little further, or you're paying down for equivalent housing, right? You don't have to be in Times Square. So that's kind of how they're kind of comparing the nomad's choice to the expat's choice, right? Obviously, the expat's going to be like, oh, I get better value here. I know I understand the lay of the land. I know how to maneuver a bit. So yeah, so $750 a month. How much do you think you're spending a month in wait, let me get
my expenses. Well, let's do it this way. We'll make this our last exercise. I don't want to give them all the candy at once. Because everybody loves you, and I definitely want you to be back. And Absolutely. You and I have talked about a couple of business things. So Brazilian real, let's put in my rent. I'm going to round up. That's my rent, $260 US a month for a 40 square meter. Okay. Yeah. So that's $250. Let's say my phone bill, let's round up again, just round numbers, that's $37. Mm-hmm. So let's call my electricity and gas and cable, let's call it 28, let's call it $30. What are we up to now?
Like 350?
Huh?
We're up to like 350, 375-ish.
Yeah, I think we're up to three. Let's call it 375 just to be round numbered. And when like during the good times, if I go out and I'm with my friends and I order a big jug of fresh squeezed orange juice and I order an entire roast chicken and I order a cup of coffee afterwards, probably comes free. We're gonna call that $10. And I mean an entire roast chicken, because I will eat the roast chicken. I don't mean that's something I'm sharing. I'll order somebody else their own chicken. When I go to the market, if I spend, let's call it on fruits, vegetables, fresh spices, all that stuff, I would have to be buying for more than a week if I spent $20 US. But let's say I see something exotic and I just want to buy it. I'm just being greedy, or I've got a buddy of mine and they're having a party and I'm taking some food over their house. Yeah, I mean, it's when you look at the cost of living, and that's not even counter. Let's just say I take Uber, because I'm lazy. I'll take Uber everywhere. I could take the bus. The way buses and Ubers and buses work here, the way the buses work is buses drive in protected lanes. So if I have to go somewhere for some unfortunate reason, because I try to never do this, during peak hours, meaning that 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. corridor or that 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. corridor, you take a bus, it avoids all traffic. But an Uber is still an Uber and it's still a car.
Yeah.
So let's say I do a week. Let's say that. Actually, no, I take it back. Let's just make it a big. Let's make it a big number. Let's say that's a week. So that's $20 a week. Just Ubering. Let's say I have to go meet one client. Says I can't meet you downtown. You gotta meet me at my office. Cool. I'll take an Uber to your office. Then I might take an Uber to a restaurant to have lunch with another client. We're talking about a deal. Then I've got to take Uber and I'll take Uber back home again. Yeah, I mean, it's truly obscene.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I say it all the time, and once you start looking at it and you're comparing, the quality of life to the spend, hands down, international living is much better. And the thing is, like, the first country that I went to in South America was actually Peru. I went to Lima, Peru, and have you been to Lima?
No.
Oh man, food capital of South America, man. The best restaurants you're gonna find down there. And as a foodie, I went down there for a food festival, and I was expecting kind of come across the same level of poverty that I would in Mexico or in the Caribbean. And I got to Miraflores, which is like the uppity neighborhood, and I felt like I was in a world-class city.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, and I was just like, whoa, wait a second, I could live here. I was like, I could live here. I could live in Lima, Peru. And then I went to Colombia next, and I was just like, this is more my speed, because like culturally they're a little different. And I liked Medellin, Bogota as a city. It's like comparing New York City to like Charlotte, for instance. Like Charlotte's like a cool, comfortable, laid back city. New York City's more like, on steroids.
Kill.
Yeah. So like comparing Sao Paulo to like Rio, for instance, right? Sao Paulo's more business, more aggressive, whatever, and Rio's a little more chill. So
watch this. I want to show everybody, as we're wrapping up, people say, well, what do you do? I always show people what I do, because I'm not a YouTuber. I don't get any YouTube monetization money. Most of my money comes from being editing, copy editing, proofreading. Unfortunately, right now I'm doing a lot more resumes than I have in the past. People need professional business level resumes written. Catch me on LinkedIn. This is my real name. It's who I am. And I tell people all the time, don't look at my resume. My resume is good. Don't get me wrong. But I want you to look at that second. I want people to scroll down, and I want them to go directly to the part where it says recommendations. You see, this is where other business professionals talk about me and say, hey, he's legitimately good at what he does. This guy is worth it. These are people who will speak with their professional titles and say, hire him. That's how I earn my crust, as they said in England. So listen, we're gonna do just like you gotta there you go. We're gonna leave it with probably one of the best comments. Reigning Woman said, Yusef have the best guests, and you know what? That was for you. So I've put all the relevant links in the comment section. I want everybody, it's in the comment section on the side. I want everybody to make sure you subscribe to his channel. It's one of the first ones. Everything that we talked about in order of relevancy is there too. Do you want to give him a last word, my friend?
Well, last word would be, think outside the box every now and then. I have some perfect last words. Remember who you wanted to be when you were 5 and 6 years old, and be that person, because somewhere along the lines we get programmed to believe some other nonsense, and we're not living the dreams that we wanted to. We're not living like that anymore. And those things that you wanted to do when you were a kid, now's your time, because we never know when it's going to end. And the last thing I want to be is on my deathbed saying, I wish I saw, I wish I did. So if you had any dream as a kid, start reorganizing your life so that you're living your dream instead of wasting it away working in the mines of the United States. That's my closing statement.
You got people like us. You got people like us now that people didn't have before. We're here for you.
Yep.
We're here for you. All right, my friend. Listen, I'm going to hang up with the crowd, but I want you to stick around for a quick second. All right?
Absolutely.